The alarm bells rang through the dormitory at 0500 hours. 2 hours earlier than normal wake-up time, Marcus Chun rolled out of his bunk before his eyes fully opened. Muscle memory from years on a frontier colony taking over on him. Other cadets stirred with varying degrees of alertness. Quartz 7, his Dexian bunkmate, made a sound like grinding glass as their crystalline body shifted from sleep mode to consciousness. "This is irregular," Quartz 7 said, their voice echoing from somewhere within their translucent form. Marcus pulled on his training uniform and nodded. "Surprise. Drill, probably," he said while lacing his boots. The corridors of Galactic Defense Academy Station. Epsilon 7 filled with cadets from 47 different species. Some walked on 2 legs like Marcus, others on 4, 6, or none at all. The Volturi cadets flew through the air on gossamer wings. The Draxian warriors stomped forward with heavy, armored steps that shook the floor plates. Everyone gathered in the main training hall where Instructor Velkith waited. The Kryn instructor stood 3 meters tall. 4 muscular arms crossed over a chitinous chest. Their compound eyes scanned the assembled cadets with the cold assessment of a veteran soldier who had seen 1,000 combat zones. "Cadets," Velkith's voice boomed without need for amplification. "You are about to face a fundamental test of military readiness." The room fell silent, except for the breathing, humming, or clicking sounds of 200 different biology types. "Combat rarely occurs under ideal circumstances," Velkith continued. "You will not always have your weapons, your armor, or your support systems." Marcus felt his shoulders tense slightly. He recognized this speech pattern from his grandfather, an old colonial defense militiaman. This was the prelude to a survival exercise. "Today you will be transported to a controlled environment." Velkith gestured with 2 of their arms, while the other 2 manipulated a holographic display. "You will have access to various materials, none of them weapons." The hologram showed a massive cargo bay filled with civilian equipment, storage crates, maintenance supplies, and random debris. "Your task is simple." Velkith's mandibles clicked together, a Kryn expression of anticipation. "Improvise a weapon from available materials." Murmurs rippled through the assembled cadets. "You have until I call time," Velkith said. "Begin when you arrive." The transport took 15 minutes. Marcus spent the time watching his fellow cadets. Most seemed uncertain. Some appeared confident. A few looked worried. The Hexian hive cluster in the corner seats were already coordinating through their telepathic link, planning their approach as a collective. When the transport doors opened, cadets poured into the cargo bay. The space was enormous, easily the size of 3 football fields, stacked with containers, equipment, and supplies. Marcus took 3 seconds to scan the environment. Exits marked. Overhead lighting adequate. Temperature controlled. Gravity standard. Then he moved his hands, grabbed a length of metal pipe from a nearby maintenance rack while his eyes cataloged everything within sight. Chemical containers, electrical components, fabric sheets, fasteners, tools. Other cadets spread out more slowly, examining materials with careful deliberation. A group of Selnari academics clustered together, their tentacles gesturing as they discussed molecular bonding properties. The Volturi cadet named Zixthar picked up a sheet of metal, turning it over while their antennae twitched in concentration. Marcus set down his first improvised weapon, a pipe with one end wrapped in friction tape for grip and the other end sharpened against concrete, and immediately started on the next. He found a length of cable that could serve as a garrote or whip. He spotted cleaning chemicals that could be combined into irritants, identified metal fragments that could be sharpened into blades. 10 minutes passed. Most cadets had selected their primary materials and were working on shaping a single weapon. Zithar had successfully created a crude blade by repeatedly bending and breaking a piece of sheet metal. Several others had fashioned clubs or staffs from pipes and Rod's Marcus had 17 weapons laid out in organized row short range, medium range, long range, defensive items. Traps. Each weapon was functional, tested for balance and effectiveness. He worked quietly and efficiently, his hands moving through practice motions that felt as natural as breathing quartz. Seven approached him with a piece of composite material they had selected for its crystalline structure, planning to resonate it into a vibrational weapon using their natural frequencies. They stopped abruptly when they saw Marcus's workspace. Chun. Quartz 7's voice carried a confused harmonic. "What have you done?" Marcus looked up from wrapping a weighted sock with ball bearings inside. "Making weapons," he said simply, then returned to his work. But Quartz 7's internal light flickered, their species equivalent of blinking in surprise. "There are so many, not done yet," Marcus said while his hands tied off the weighted sock and reached for materials to create a slingshot. Quartz 7's optical sensors focused on the array of improvised weapons, a sharpened spear made from mud, pipe, multiple blades of different sizes, a club with metal fragments embedded in wrapped fabric, a slingshot with carefully measured elastic properties, several containers of mixed chemicals with improvised fuse flashbang, devices constructed from reflective material and chemical reactions, caltrops made from bent fasteners, a shield fashioned from a cargo panel, throwing implements balanced for accuracy. "This is not QUARTZ." 7 paused. "Processing. I must call the instructor." Marcus shrugged and continued working. He had just finished weapon number 22 when Instructor Velketh arrived, summoned by Quartz 7's urgent communication. The Kryn instructor's compound eye swept over Marcus's workspace once, twice, 3 times. One armored hand reached for a scanner device. Velketh ran a full-spectrum analysis on every weapon, checking for contraband materials or prefabricated components. Every scan came back negative. All items were improvised from available materials in the cargo bay. All items were created within the past 15 minutes. Cadet Chun. Velketh's voice carried a tone Marcus couldn't quite identify. The exercise was to create a weapon. Marcus stood at attention, holding a partially completed crossbow made from composite material and elastic cable. "Yes, sir," he said. "Singular," Velketh emphasized. "One weapon." Marcus glanced at his collection, then back at the instructor. His expression showed genuine confusion. "Yes, sir," he repeated. "I'm not finished yet." Velketh's mandibles clicked rapidly, a Kryn expression Marcus had never seen before. Other cadets began gathering, drawn by the commotion. Words spread quickly through the training bay. The human had made weapons, plural, many. Weapons work stopped as more cadets came to see. They stood in a growing semicircle around Marcus's organized arsenal, staring at what one human had created, while most of them were still finishing their first attempt. Velketh's 4 arms gestured sharply, calling for the other instructors. Within minutes, 5 more academy instructors arrived, representing 5 different species. They examined Marcus's weapons with scanning devices, manual testing, and increasingly agitated discussions. A Drakian instructor picked up one of the clubs and hefted it experimentally balanced. She grunted with grudging approval. Effective weight distribution. A Selnari professor tested the chemical irritant spray Marcus had created. Functional. The professor's tentacles curled with academic interest. Crude but properly mixed proportions. By the time the instructors finished their examination, Marcus had completed weapon number 28. Was currently working on number 29, and net weighted, with metal fasteners designed to entangle and immobilize. Velketh turned to face the assembled cadets. "Let this be documented," the instructor said. "In 15 minutes, Cadet Chun has created more functional improvised weapons than the entire rest of the class combined." Marcus secured the last knot on his net and set it aside. 29 weapons. Velkith continued. All functional, all improvised. All created by one individual. The instructor's compound eyes fixed on Marcus. Explain yourself, cadet. Marcus stood at attention while 200 cadets and 6 instructors stared at him. He had stopped, counting his weapons at 29, because the instructors had requested he cease production and provide an explanation, sir. I don't understand the question, Marcus said carefully. Both mandibles clicked 3 times in quick succession. You were instructed to improvise a weapon, the Kryn instructor repeated slowly. You created 29 weapons in 15 minutes. 29 so far. Sir, Marcus corrected, then added quickly. I can make more if needed. A ripple of sound moved through the assembled cadets, the galactic equivalent of shocked gasps expressed in 47 different ways. That, Velkith said. 2 arms pointing at Marcus and 2 arms gesturing at the arsenal. Is the question we need answered. Did you have prior knowledge of this exercise? This question came from a Selnari instructor whose name Marcus couldn't pronounce. Her tentacles coiled and uncoiled with suspicion. No. Ma'am, Marcus said honestly. This is my first surprise drill at the academy. Have you received specialized training in weapon improvisation? Asked the Draxian instructor, her armor brow ridges lowered in what might have been respect or confusion. Not formally. Ma'am, Marcus said. My grandfather taught me some basics. And we had to be ready for things on the colony. Be ready for things. Velkith repeated the phrase as if it held some hidden meaning. Yes. Sir. Marcus relaxed slightly, sensing this had shifted from interrogation to genuine curiosity. We lived on a frontier colony Kepler 442b. It was classified as a Class 7 Death World. Several instructors made notes on their datapads. The classification means dangerous native life. Unstable weather. Limited support infrastructure, Marcus continued. So we always had to think about what could go wrong and how to handle it with weapons. The Selnari professor stated, with tools, Marcus corrected gently. Anything can be a tool, depending on what you need it for. He gestured to his collection. The pipe is a club, but it's also a lever or a probe or a water channel, he explained. The chemical spray is an irritant, but it's also a marker or a distraction or a way to test wind direction. Quartz 7 moved closer, their crystalline form refracting light into rainbow patterns across the floor. But you made them specifically as weapons, Quartz 7 observed. You organized them by function and range. Sure, Marcus nodded. Because that's what the exercise called for. Most species, Velkith said slowly, processing this information, would identify the optimal material and create the single most effective weapon possible. Marcus tilted his head slightly. But what if that weapon breaks? He asked. Or what if the situation changes? Or what if you need different capabilities for different ranges or targets? The question hung in the air. Zixter, the Volturi, who had successfully created one blade, clicked their mandibles. We have natural weapons, Zixtar said, raising their forearms to display blade-like protrusions that could emerge from their chitin. Improvisation is not something my species considers necessary. My people evolved as part of a hive collective, added a Hexian representative. We think as one, plan as one. Act as one individual. Preparation seems redundant when the collective provides. My species has armored hides and natural combat abilities, the Draxian instructor said, flexing an arm that looked like it could punch through steel. We train to use what we are born with. Marcus listened carefully, beginning to understand the disconnect. Humans don't have any of that, he said quietly. No armor, no claws, no venom, no natural weapons at all. He held up his hands, soft and vulnerable compared to the chitin scales or crystalline structures around him. So we had to get creative, he continued. Our entire history is about using tools to make up for what we don't have naturally. but 29 tools. Chord 7's harmonics carried genuine confusion. In 15 minutes, is that unusual? Marcus asked the question caused another ripple of reactions. Cadet Chun, Velkith said, with what might have been the Kryn equivalent of patience. The Academy record for this exercise was 7 weapons created in 1 hour by a Draxian weapon specialist with formal training. Marcus blinked. "Oh," he said, "you have created 29 functional weapons in 1/4 that time with no formal training." Velkith continued, "And you stated you were not finished." "I wasn't," Marcus agreed. "I was thinking about ranged weapons next, maybe a crossbow or a weighted throwing system. And I saw some materials that could work as explosive devices if assembled correctly." Every instructor made notes simultaneously. Explosive devices. The Selnari professor's tentacles quivered. "From civilian cargo bay supplies, just basic chemistry," Marcus said. "Cleaning supplies mostly. Some electrical components for ignition, nothing complicated." A new instructor arrived. This one was a Pelthian, a species Marcus recognized from his xenobiology classes as having advanced cognitive processing abilities. "I am Instructor Theox from the Department of Xenopsychology," the Pelthian's thought voice projected directly into everyone's minds. "I have been monitoring this situation remotely, and I believe we need a broader analysis." Theox's 3 eyes focused on Marcus with unsettling intensity. "Cadet Chun, is this approach to improvisation common among humans?" The xenopsychologist asked. Marcus considered the question. "Pretty normal." "Yeah," he said. "I mean, some humans are better at it than others. But most people from colonies or military families would probably think this way." "Define think this way." Theox requested. "Well," Marcus organized his thoughts. "You assess the situation, identify available resources, and create multiple options for dealing with potential problems." "Multiple options?" Theox repeated. "Not optimal option, multiple options." "Right," Marcus confirmed. "Because you don't always know what the actual problem will be until it happens. So you want backup plans." "Backup plans," Velkith said the words as if testing their flavor. "You assume your primary solution will fail." "Not fail exactly," Marcus tried to explain. "But maybe it won't be the right tool for the specific situation. Or circumstances will change, or you'll need more than one approach." He paused, thinking about his grandfather's lessons during long nights on Kepler 442b, when the settlement alarms would sound, and everyone had to be ready for anything. My grandfather used to say, "Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and have 3 backup plans ready just in case." Marcus said. The instructors exchanged glances or whatever equivalent their species used for silent communication. "I propose we expand this exercise." Theox said, "We should test whether this is an individual anomaly or a species-wide trait." Agreed. Velkith's 4 arms gestured decisively. "We have 2 other human cadets in this cohort." Marcus remembered them from orientation. Sarah Okonkwo from Earth itself, and James Park from the Tau Ceti colonies. "Let's reconvene in 1 hour." Velkith announced to all assembled. New location. New exercise parameters. The instructor's compound eyes fixed on Marcus one more time. "Cadet Chen, you are dismissed to prepare." Marcus saluted and turned to leave. But Court 7 intercepted him. "Chun." The Vexian's voice harmonics carried a mixture of curiosity and concern. "Are you all like this?" Marcus thought about humanity, about the species that had clawed its way up from caves and savanna to reach the stars despite having no natural weapons. No built-in armor, no telepathic coordination, a species that survived ice ages, plagues, predators, and themselves through nothing but stubbornness and the ability to turn anything into a tool. "Yeah," Marcus said simply. "We're all pretty much like this." Court 7's internal light flickered rapidly. "That is terrifying." They said. Marcus shrugged. "Maybe," he agreed. but it's kept us alive this long. 1 hour later, they gathered in a different environment, a simulated civilian habitat with residential furniture, kitchen equipment, basic appliances, and standard living supplies. The rules were the same. Improvise weapons from available materials. Time limit 30 minutes. This time, everyone was watching the humans, specifically Marcus, Sarah, and James, spread out into different sections of the habitat. The timer began. Other cadets worked with increased focus, determined to improve their performances. Thor started on a blade. Immediately, a group of Hexians coordinated their efforts on a single, complex weapon designed, the Draxian. Cadets used their strength to break furniture into clubs, but the instructor scanners were locked onto the three. Human Sarah moved through the kitchen area with decisive purpose, gathering cleaning supplies, batteries, wiring, and containers. James systematically dismantled appliances, sorting components into organized piles. Marcus worked in the bedroom section, using furniture, fabric, and various household items. 5 minutes in, Sarah had created 8 weapons. James had 11. Marcus had 13. 10 minutes in, Sarah had 17. James had 21. Marcus had 24. 15 minutes in, competition had sparked between the three humans without any communication between them. Sarah focused on chemical-based weapons and close-range implements. James specialized in electrical devices and projectile systems. Marcus created a balanced array covering all ranges and scenarios. When the timer hit 30 minutes, Velkith called for all cadets to stop and step back from their workspaces. Non-human cadets had improved. Several had created 3 or 4 weapons each. A few had managed 5, as Ixther had successfully made 4 functional blades of different sizes. The Hexian Collective had created 1 remarkably sophisticated energy-based weapon. The Xenopsychology department worked through the night analyzing the data. Marcus sat in an observation room the next morning with Sarah and James, all 3 of them looking somewhat uncomfortable with the attention beyond the transparent wall. 12 instructors from different departments huddled around holographic displays, showing recordings of yesterday's exercises. "This is weird," Sarah muttered, adjusting her uniform collar nervously. She was tall and lean, with close-cropped hair and the alert posture of someone who grew up in Earth's crowded urban defense zones. "Could be worse," James said with a slight smile. He was shorter and stockier, built like someone who had spent years in variable gravity environments. "They could be dissecting us instead of just watching recordings." Marcus watched Instructor Thilk's gesture and a hologram showing Marcus's weapon-making process in accelerated time. "They're trying to understand why we do it," Marcus said quietly. "Do what?" Sarah asked. "Make weapons?" "That's basic survival stuff. That's the point," Marcus said. "It's basic for us, not for them." The door opened, and Velkith entered along with Thilks and several other senior instructors cadets. Velkith's 4 arms gestured formally. "Thank you for your patience. We have been conducting extensive analysis," Thilk's thought voice projected, "and we need your input to understand what we are observing." A hologram activated in the center of the room, showing statistical comparisons. In the first exercise, Thilks began. Human cadets created an average of 33 weapons each in 15 minutes. Non-human cadets created an average of 0.8 weapons in the same time frame. Most were still in the planning phase. The numbers hung in the air like an accusation. In the second exercise with extended time, Thilks continued. Human cadets averaged 40.7 weapons in 30 minutes. Non-human cadets averaged 3.2 weapons. Sarah raised her hand slightly. "Permission to speak, sir?" "Granted," Velkith said. "Are we in trouble?" Sarah asked bluntly. "Because this feels like we did something wrong." "Not wrong." Velkith's mandibles clicked in. What Marcus had learned was a thoughtful gesture. "Unexpected. Incomprehensible, actually." added a Selnari instructor, her tentacles coiling with academic frustration. We have been training military cadets for 300 cycles across this institution. Never have we seen improvisation at this speed or scale. She continued. We need to understand if this is training, instinct, or something else. James leaned forward. Can I ask you all a question? He said, Thelx's three eyes focused on him. Proceed. When you look at this room right now, James gestured around them. What do you see? The instructors looked confused by the question. An observation room, Velka said. Standard academy furniture, monitoring equipment. Structural supports. Right. James nodded. Marcus, what do you see? Marcus understood immediately. 17 potential weapons, he said automatically, his eyes tracking around the room. The chair legs are metal pipes, clubs, or spears. The monitoring cables can be garrots or tripwires. The hologram projector has glass and circuitry that can be made into cutting tools or electrical weapons. The wall panels are composite that could be fashioned into shields or blades. Sarah continued the list without prompting. The ventilation grate could provide metal mesh for nets or traps. And the fire suppression system contains pressurized chemicals that could be repurposed. She paused, and that's just at a quick glance. If we had a few minutes, we could probably identify another 30 options. The instructors stared at them. You see weapons everywhere, Thelx said slowly. Processing this revelation, we see potential, Marcus corrected gently. Everything has multiple uses depending on the situation, but you categorize those uses primarily as weapons. A Draxian instructor observed. Not just weapons, James said. Tools for defense, escape, construction, communication, whatever is needed. But when asked to make weapons specifically, Sarah added, Yeah. We default to that categorization. Velkith's forearms crossed in a thinking posture. We have reviewed Earth's historical databases, the Kryn instructor said. Your species has continuous warfare spanning your entire recorded history. Thousands of years of conflict, Thelx added. More conflicts than any other known species. And yet you also have extensive cooperation. Art, philosophy, scientific advancement. The Selnari professor's tentacles uncoiled with confusion. The contradiction is difficult to reconcile. Marcus thought about how to explain this to beings who evolved in more stable environments. Earth is a Class 7 death world. He began. Almost everything on our planet can kill us, animals, insects, plants, weather, even the bacteria. So humans had to be smart and adaptable just to survive childhood. Sarah picked up the thread. And then we had to compete with each other for resources because our world doesn't provide abundance easily. That meant innovation, James continued. Better tools, better weapons, better strategies. The groups that prepared for worst-case scenarios survived. The ones that didn't became history. Over thousands of years, Marcus concluded. That pattern got built into how we think. Pattern recognition, plus threat assessment, plus creative tool use, Thelx said. Their thought voice carrying a tone of academic excitement. Multiplied across millennia of evolutionary pressure. So, when you give us a scenario where we need weapons, Sarah said, our brains don't just think, what weapon should I make? They automatically start thinking, what could go wrong, and how many different tools do I need to handle all the possibilities? You prepare for multiple failure modes simultaneously, Velkith said. Understanding dawning in their voice. Exactly, Marcus confirmed. Because on Earth, things always go wrong. The question is just how and when. A Pelthian junior instructor spoke up for the first time. Is this mindset constant? They asked, do you always assess environments this way? The three humans looked at each other. Pretty much, yeah, James admitted. It's kind of automatic. I didn't even realize I was doing it until you pointed it out. Sarah said. Marcus nodded agreement. It's like breathing. You don't think about it consciously most of the time. Thilk's three eyes moved independently, each focusing on a different human. This explains the weapon counts, they said. But it raises another question. The xenopsychologist pulled up a new hologram, showing the quality analysis of the improvised weapons. Not only did you create more weapons, Felix continued, but the weapons themselves are functional and well-designed. Each weapon shows understanding of leverage, balance, material science, and tactical application, the Selnari professor added. Where did you learn this? Grandfather taught me basic principles, Marcus said. The rest is just logic. Just logic. Velkith repeated the phrase with something like disbelief. If you're making a club, Marcus explained, you want weight at the striking end and a comfortable grip. That's physics and ergonomics. If you're making a blade, Sarah added, you need a hard edge and a way to apply force. That's materials and leverage. If you're making explosives, James said, then paused at the instructor's reactions. Hypothetically, you need fuel, oxidizer, and ignition. That's basic chemistry. These are not concepts taught in basic education on your world. Ask the Pelthian instructor, they are, James confirmed, but probably not in the context of weapon making. We just apply general knowledge to specific problems. Sarah said, isn't that normal? For humans, apparently yes, Felk said. For the rest of the galaxy, apparently no. Velketh stood and paced with two legs while the other two supported upper body weight. Most species develop specialized knowledge in specific domains, the Kryn instructor explained. A Draxian warrior trains for direct combat. They become excellent at combat. A Hexian engineer studies construction. They become excellent at construction. Delx continued. A Volturi scout masters reconnaissance. They excel at scouting. But humans, Velkith gestured at the three cadets, seem to be generalists by nature. You take knowledge from multiple domains and combine them adaptively. The Selnari professor's academic excitement was evident in her rapid tentacle movements. Cross-disciplinary application at instinctive speeds, I guess. Sarah looked uncertain. We just use what we know to solve problems, which is exactly the point, Filk said. You don't separate knowledge into categories. The way other species do you maintain fluid access to all information and apply it contextually. Marcus thought about his education on Kepler 442b science. Class taught chemistry and physics. History class taught warfare and survival strategies. Literature. Class analyzed problem solving and story shop. Class taught material properties and tool use. He had never considered that other species might learn these things in isolation without connecting them. So what happens now? James asked, are we getting special training or something? Velketh's mandibles clicked rapidly. Marcus had learned this was the Kryn version of a laugh. Cadet Park. The instructor said, you are going to be providing the special training. The three humans exchanged glances, sir. Marcus asked, the Academy has decided to integrate human improvisation methodology into standard curriculum. Silks announced. All cadets will receive instruction in adaptive tool use and creative problem solving. You three will serve as assistant instructors, Velkith continued, teaching your fellow cadets how to think the way humans think. Sarah looked skeptical. How do you teach someone to think differently? She asked. The training arena filled quickly once word spread about the challenge. 200 cadets from 47 species crowded the observation platforms, eager to witness what was being called human adaptability versus Draxian honor. Marcus stood in one section of the arena with Sarah and James across the combat floor. Korthax and two other Draxian warriors waited, their armored forms radiating confidence. This was a stupid idea, Sarah whispered to Marcus. Probably, Marcus agreed. Scanning the arena environment, the space was designed as a multi-terrain training ground with various obstacles. structures, and terrain types scattered throughout standard combat arena. Nothing special except the rules for this match. Attention cadets and instructors. Velkith's voice boomed across the arena sound system. This is an official training exercise, sanctioned by Academy protocols. Each team will have 10 minutes to prepare. Thelk's thought voice added. You may use any materials found within the arena to create improvised weapons. After preparation time, a capture the flag scenario will commence, Velkith continued. First team to secure the opponent's flag or eliminate all opposing team members wins. Non-lethal force only, Thelix emphasized. Medical teams are standing by. The flags materialized at opposite ends of the arena, one near the humans, one near the Draxians. Timer appeared on the main display and minutes begin. The Draxians moved immediately to their flag. Taking up defensive positions, Korthax began fashioning a massive club from a metal beam. Using her natural strength to bend and shape it, Marcus, Sarah, and James scattered in different directions. Without discussion, what are they doing? Court 7 asked from the observation deck, where they stood with other cadets. Gathering resources? Another cadet observed. A Selnari engineer named Pelmoth Marcus moved through a section that looked like urban ruins, collecting pipe fragments, cables, loose metal sheets, and a torn fabric tarp. Sarah headed for an area with maintenance equipment. Disassembling items rapidly, James found a section with various containers and started mixing contents from different sources. 5 minutes into prep time. The Draxians had 3 weapons, a massive club, a crude shield, and a javelin-like spear. 3 humans had created a supply depot near their flag with dozens of items organized by function. They're doing it again, Zixthar said from the observation deck, their antennae twitching with fascination. Not just weapons this time. Pelmoth's tentacles gestured at the holographic tactical display. Look at the positioning. The humans had created defensive layers around their flag, tripwires, caltrops scattered at choke points, improvised alarms using tension cables and metal fragments. They are fortifying, a Hexian representative observed. Establishing defensive infrastructure. At the 8-minute mark, Marcus, Sarah, and James regrouped at their base. They now had approximately 30 improvised weapons divided among them, plus the defensive preparations, typical Draxian tactics. James asked quickly. Direct assault, Sarah confirmed. They'll rely on strength and armor to push through, so we make that expensive, Marcus said, checking a slingshot he had created from elastic material and a polymer frame. The timer hit 0. The match began. Korthax roared a battle cry that echoed through the arena. The 3 Draxians charged directly toward the human position, weapons ready, armor gleaming under the arena lights. Here we go, Sarah muttered. Moving to her designated position, the Draxians hit the first defensive layer. Caltrops scattered across the most direct path. Korthax's armored feet crushed them without effect. The metal points unable to penetrate Draxian natural armor, but the caltrops forced them into a narrower approach where tripwires waited. One Draxian warrior triggered a wire that released a weighted net. The net tangled around his legs, causing him to stumble. Not enough to stop a Draxian, but enough to slow him. Marcus appeared on a raised platform, his slingshot loaded with a paint-filled bag, improvised marker rounds that would show hits. He fired. The bag hit Korthax's shoulder plate, splattering red paint. The Draxian leader barely noticed. Continuing her charge, Sarah triggered the next defense, a suspended log that swung across the path. The Draxians saw it coming and adjusted, but the adjustment forced them into another prepared kill zone. James emerged from cover, throwing glass containers filled with a mixture that created dense smoke on impact. The smoke didn't hurt the Draxians, but it obscured their vision. Cowardice, Korthax shouted, swinging her club through the smoke. Face us directly. Tactics, Marcus called back. Already moving to a new position, the humans didn't stay in one place, constantly repositioning while the Draxians pushed forward through each defensive layer. This is not combat. A Draxian instructor growled from the observation deck. This is harassment. This is asymmetric warfare, Velkath corrected. Watching the tactical display with keen interest, the humans are fighting smart, not strong. The Draxians finally cleared the defensive zone and reached the human flag position, except the humans weren't there anymore, where Karthak spun around. Trying to locate her opponents, Sarah dropped from an overhead perch, landing on a Draxian's back and using a cable to briefly entangle his weapon. Amshi leaped away before he could grab her. James ran past, trailing a rope covered in sticky adhesive he had made from mixed compounds. The rope caught on Draxian armor, creating annoying resistance. Marcus appeared at another angle, using a long pole with a bag of iridant powder on the end to tap. Draxian helmets not damaging but distracting. Stand and fight. Korthax roared with frustration. We are fighting, Marcus called back. Just not the way you expected. The pattern continued. The humans never engaged directly, never stayed still, never committed to a single attack. They used range, mobility, distraction, and terrain. Each human carried multiple weapons and switched between them depending on the situation. Slingshot for ranged harassment, then drop it for a smoke bomb, then switch to a staff for defense if caught. Then use a tripwire to create separation. The Draxians were stronger, tougher, and more heavily armed, but they were fighting three opponents who refused to be caught, refused direct engagement, and treated the entire arena as one giant toolkit. 10 minutes into the actual combat, all three Draxians showed paint marks indicating multiple hits. 0 humans were marked. This is insane, Quartz 7 said from the observation deck. The Draxians should be dominating. They are dominating space, Palmoth observed. But the humans control tempo. Korthax made a strategic decision. She signaled her warriors to split up: 1 to defend their flag, 2 to continue pursuit. Smart move, except the humans had anticipated this the moment the Draxians divided. Sarah and James led 2 of them on a chase through the most obstacle-dense section of the arena. Meanwhile, Marcus went for the Draxian flag. The single defender was a warrior named Grothel. Massive and ready, Marcus didn't approach directly. Instead, he used a slingshot to bounce projectiles off arena walls, forcing Grothel to track multiple angles. Then he threw a smoke grenade knot at Grothel behind him, cutting off visual contact with the flag. Marcus moved through the smoke, using a damp cloth over his face to filter the worst of it. Grothel heard movement and swung his club. Marcus wasn't there anymore. Already circling to a different angle, he threw a weighted net knot at Grothel, but at the flagpole itself, wrapping it. Then he triggered a cable he had prepared earlier during prep time, which pulled the entire flagpole down horizontally. Marcus grabbed the flag and ran. No. Korthak's roar echoed across the arena as she saw Marcus emerge from the smoke. Flag in hand, she charged directly at him, club raised. All pretense of measured tactics abandoned. Marcus dropped the flag and threw 3 smoke bombs in quick succession, creating a wall of dense smoke between them. Then he picked up the flag and changed direction. Korthax emerged from the smoke. Wrong direction. Sarah and James had completed their objectives, leading the other Draxians far from the flag and maintaining separation. Marcus reached the human base and planted the Draxian flag. The match end signal sounded. Silence filled the observation deck for 3 full seconds. Then noise erupted. Cadets from dozens of species, all talking at once in a babel of languages, thought projections, and clicks. The Draxians stood in the center of the arena, paint-marked and defeated by opponents they had never actually hit. Karth removed her helmet slowly, her expression unreadable. She walked across the arena to where Marcus stood, catching his breath. That was not honorable combat. she said. Marcus straightened. Ready for continued hostility. That was combat against superior opponents, Korthax continued. And you fought intelligently. She extended a massive armored hand. I challenged human methods out of pride, she admitted. I was wrong. Adaptability is not weakness. It is another form of strength. Marcus shook her hand. Relieved. Your tactics were sound, he said honestly. In a straight fight, you would have won easily, but you did not allow a straight fight, Korthax had said, something like respect in her voice. You changed the battle to favor your advantages. That is what humans do, she concluded. You do not accept the battle as given, you remake it. From the observation deck. Velkit's voice carried approval. Attention all cadets, the instructor announced. You have witnessed today a fundamental principle of adaptive warfare. The stronger force does not always prevail. Folks added their thought voice. The more adaptable force controls the engagement. Beginning tomorrow, Velkith continued, all cadets will receive. The residential wing of Epsilon 7 housed 200 cadets in dormitory style. Accommodations designed for comfort and study. Marcus had memorized its layout within hours of arrival, not consciously. Just automatic threat assessment from years of frontier living. Now that automatic knowledge proved useful, residential wing is sealed, Sarah confirmed, checking the door panel that glowed red with emergency lockdown. We're cut off from the main security hub. Communications jammed, James added. His datapad showing nothing but static. Can't reach instructors or security teams around them. Cadets from dozens of species clustered in confused and frightened groups. Some of the larger predator species like the Draxians and Volturi maintained composure. But even they showed signs of stress. What is happening? Quartz 7 asked, their crystalline form refracting light in anxious patterns. Pirates probably, Marcus said. Already moving through the corridor, eyes cataloging everything. Epsilon 7 is a military facility valuable target. But we have security, a Hexian cadet projected with their collective voice. Trained soldiers with actual weapons, and they're fighting somewhere else, Sarah pointed out. Which means we need to handle ourselves. Handle ourselves how? Korthax appeared, her armor scorched from a training exercise earlier. We are unarmed cadets. Marcus stopped at a maintenance closet, forcing the lock open with a pry technique his grandfather taught him. We're 200 military cadets from 47 species, he said while pulling out cleaning supplies, tools, and various equipment. We're only unarmed if we accept that definition. He looked at the assembled cadets, Draxians, Volturi, Hexians, Selnari, Dexians, and dozens of other species. 3 weeks ago, I had to explain human thinking to all of you, Marcus said, his voice carrying command authority he hadn't known he possessed. Remember the lessons? Everything is a potential weapon, Quartz 7 quoted from their lessons. Exactly, Sarah confirmed. Already disassembling a vacuum cleaner to extract motors and power cells. So stop thinking like helpless students and start thinking like survivors. James spread a maintenance schematic across a wall display. Residential wing has 4 main corridors. He pointed to the layout. If pirates breach this section, they'll come through here, or here. How do you know they will breach? Asked Palmuth, the Selnari engineer. Because we're valuable hostages, Marcus explained grimly. Military cadets from dozens of species perfect. Leverage against their governments. Understanding spread through the group like cold water. So we make this wing expensive to take. Sarah said, use what we know. For just a moment. No one moved. Then Korthax stepped forward. Where do we start? The Draxian asked. Marcus felt relief flood through him. If the Draxians committed, others would follow. We fortify. We arm. We prepare, Marcus said. Sarah, take anyone with chemistry knowledge and start making irritants and smoke devices from cleaning supplies. James, Take the engineers and tech specialists. I want sensor alerts at every entry point and communication workarounds. Cortex. Organize defensive positions using furniture and corridor structures. Everyone else. Start improvising weapons from whatever you can find. Remember your training. The cadets scattered. What followed was controlled chaos as 200 students transformed from frightened civilians into an organized defensive force. Marcus moved through the wing. Coordinating efforts, a group of Volturi used their flying ability to create overhead positions with improvised javelin Shexian. Collectives coordinated communication between positions. Using their natural telepathizellary, engineers helped James rig makeshift sensors using door chimes, and wire Draxians used their natural strength to create barricades from furniture and wall panels. The Vexians, like Quartz 7, discovered their crystalline bodies could shatter on command into caltrops, then reform a weapon none of them had considered before. Within 10 minutes, the residential wing had been converted from living space to defensive position tripwires, crisscross corridors, improvised clubs, spears, shields, and projectile weapons armed cadets at every position. Chemical irritants and smoke bombs waited at key choke points. Barricades funneled movement into kill zones. This is insane, Quartz 7 said, hefting an improvised spear made from a broken bed frame with a sharpened metal point. We are students. We were students, Marcus corrected, checking the balance on a weighted club. Right now we're defenders. James's improvised sensors started pinging. Movement in corridor C7, he announced. Multiple contacts approaching. Positions, Marcus called out. Cadets moved to their designated spots with surprising coordination. Lessons from 3 weeks of training had taken root faster than anyone expected. The corridor airlock began cycling. Someone was overriding the emergency seal from outside. Ready, Sarah whispered from her position, chemical irritant spray in hand. The airlock opened. 4 figures in mismatched armor entered. Weapons drawn pirates, as Marcus had predicted. They expected frightened students instead. They found an organized defensive line. What the? One pirate started. Volturi cadet dropped from an overhead position. Improvised net tangling the lead pirate. Sarah triggered her irritant spray, filling the corridor with choking vapor. Draxian cadets rushed forward with shields and clubs. The pirates tried to respond, but they were trained for station security combat, not improvised defense. By desperate students, one pirate got off a weapon discharge that burned a wall panel. 3 Hexians responded by throwing sharpened furniture legs from multiple angles, simultaneously overwhelming individual targeting. The fight lasted 45 seconds. When it ended, 4 pirates were disarmed and restrained with cable ties James had distributed earlier. Corridor C7 secure, Corthax reported. Barely winded. 4 hostiles captured. Good, Marcus said, already moving to the next position. Strip them for information and weapons. Take their weapons? A cadet asked. Everything is a weapon, Marcus reminded them, including actual weapons when available. The pirate weapons were distributed to cadets with training, mostly Draxians and Volturi, who had formal weapons. Instruction over the next hour. 3 more pirate teams tried to breach the residential wing. Each time they met organized resistance, improvised weapons, and tactical thinking that turned student housing into a lethal maze. Tripwires caught ankle smoke bombs, concealed movement chemical irritants, forced pirates to fight blind. Improvised projectiles harassed from range close combat teams with makeshift weapons engaged when pirates were already disoriented and confused. Meanwhile, James worked on breaking through the communication, jamming using improvised signal boosters made from various electronics. Got something, he announced after 40 minutes of work. Not full comms, but I can send basic signals. Send distress call, Marcus ordered. Let security know we're holding, but need relief. The response came 15 minutes. Later, station security forces broke the jamming and stormed the pirate positions from multiple angles with the jamming down. Proper coordination returned. The pirate raid fell apart rapidly once their communication advantage disappeared. Security teams reached the residential wing expecting to rescue hostages. Instead, they found 200 armed cadets holding a fortified position with 16 captured pirates restrained in the center of the common room. Vect arrived with the security commander, a massive Kryn veteran named Cal Seth. Both instructors stopped at the entrance, staring at the transformation of the residential wing. Barricades constructed from furniture improvised, weapons stacked at defensive positions, chemical smoke still lingering in some corridors, and 200 cadets standing ready, organized, unharmed. Report, Cal Seth demanded. Residential wing secure, Marcus said formally. 16 hostiles captured, 0 casualties on our side. You were supposed to shelter in place, Velkit said, their mandibles clicking rapidly. We did shelter, Sarah pointed out. Just actively, very actively, James added. Gesturing at the fortification, Skulls walked through the wing slowly, examining the improvised defenses with a professional eye. This is academy-level tactical thinking, the security commander said. How did students? Human methodology, Velkith interrupted, understanding flooding through their voice. They taught the others. Taught them what? Calseth asked. To improvise, Quartz 7 answered, still holding their improvised spear. To adapt, to prepare, to survive. Karth Axe stepped forward. 3 weeks ago, I challenged human methods as dishonorable, the Draxian said. Today those methods saved 200 lives. Not just human methods, Marcus corrected. Human thinking applied by everyone. Draxian strength for barricades, Volturi mobility for overhead positions, Axian coordination for communication, Selnari engineering for sensors. We all contributed, Sarah agreed. Humans just taught everyone to look at problems differently. Velkith's forearms gestured with something that looked like pride. I said 3 weeks ago that you terrified me, the Kryn instructor said to Marcus. Today I understand why, and today I am grateful. When I wrote my report about human improvisation, Velkith continued, addressing all the cadets, I called it prepared paranoia, the ability to see threats everywhere and prepare for them. I was wrong, Velkith admitted. It is not paranoia, it is wisdom earned through survival. Humans do not prepare for worst-case scenarios out of fear, the instructor concluded. They prepare because they understand reality. Bad things happen, and the prepared survive while the unprepared do not. Calseth,